Portlanders want to know what's being done about these nightly protests and the violence that's happening in the city. But right now, there doesn't seem to be a clear plan. Our Fox 12's Audrey WEIL explains what city and county officials are saying about this right now.
When I asked the mayor's office what's being done about nightly riots, I got a statement about protests in general, saying that Black Lives Matter protesters need to continue to push elected officials to do more, and that peaceful protesters should separate themselves from criminals. We're also hearing a mix of things from other leaders when it comes to violence in the community, as well as work on police reform.
Disperse to the south and to the east.
This is video of the past several nights of riots in Portland in what's been 3 months of unrest. I've asked Mayor and Police Commissioner Ted Wheeler's office what's being done to address it and what he believes needs to happen next. Today they sent us a statement saying, quote, "We have seen 3 months of protests demanding police and criminal justice reform in Portland and across the country. And yet this weekend we saw another black man, Jacob Blake, shot 7 times in the back by a police officer. This violence is real and it continues to traumatize the black community. And it reminds us that the Black Lives Matter protests must continue to push elected officials at all levels of government and in every corner of our country to do more. The repeated violence we see near some of the protests must be separated from these calls for justice. I'm asking those who do not want to be associated with criminal activity to protest away from the small group that is perpetuating destructive acts in our city." Police Chief Chuck Lavelle says he'd like to be talking about the future of policing, but that nightly demonstrations are actually getting in the way of that.
This crowd control issue that we've been dealing with for 3 months now has really taken away from, one, that conversation, but a lot of the resources that we would use to start implementing things that would really benefit the community.
Meanwhile, City Commissioner Chloe Udaly and County Commissioner Sushila Jayapal have said we must speak up against violence in all forms, but that police violence is by far a larger systemic problem. Udaly saying in part, "It is disproportionate and is wholly different from the destructive behavior we've witnessed from a relatively small number of protesters." She also criticized Portland police for not stepping in during clashing protests Saturday. The mayor said he's reviewing that with the police chief. Chief Lavelle says it was a strategic decision based on where the crowd was, how they were interacting with each other, the potential that officer involvement could escalate things, and a lack of available officers.
We have to make some determinations on what is safe to do, what is prudent to do, and what's not.
As far as police reform, today Commissioner Udaly said that she's working with community leaders, advocates, and other elected officials on police protest actions and re-envisioning our justice system, including working with Reimagine Oregon. I also asked the mayor's office what he's doing and what discussions he's having right now when it comes to police reform, but I have not heard back. Reporting in downtown Portland, Audrey WEIL, Fox 12 Oregon.